Hello, welcome back to yet another episode of the World Through Zen Eyes podcast. I am Young Ansunim here with
Dr. Ruben Lambert.
Pleasure having you back. Right. So we do have some topics that are down the pipe. I guess it's the expression. Today, I wanted to inflate some concepts, maybe. The idea of a true nature, if you will, is thrown around again.
Yeah.
One of those what I call the bumper sticker slogans, right? True nature, Buddha self, whatever. So every kind of combination of the expression suggesting something at the root of us, something that we're interested in. Everybody wants it.
I think it's a common concern, right? Or a common question that people ponder. What is human nature?
Right. And so there's the human nature, again, right? That's why we're doing this, because are we talking sociology? Are we talking psychology? Are we talking, sort of observations by the various philosophers, or at least the ones that have stuck around? So this idea of finding out who we are, they're fantastic things to be pursued through meditation, through suheng, through practice. But we need a little something, something to kind of sink your teeth into, to make sense out of the thing, because then it becomes such a ephemeral thing, such a broad.
Right. It becomes
nothing.
It becomes like cotton candy.
Yeah.
Right. You bite down on it. You're like, I'm biting down onto something. And a split second later, it just becomes air. Right. We want something with a little bit like a mochi donut. It's got to have a little bit of chew.
There you go.
Something you can really sink your teeth into, like you said. And
a cotton candy at least gives you some sweetness. This here gives you nothing. It's a hollowed, empty thing. We are trying to find out our true nature, or find out who you are, and whatever. And so I wanted to kind of put a little meat on the bone here, if you will, or a mochi donut, as you say.
It's got a good chew, that mochi donut, I have to say.
And so this idea of a thing, and simultaneously, on one hand, it is left in the script, because this is one other problematic thing, that the moment we begin to describe it and assign qualities and characteristics to the thing, I mean, we do this with with the kind of Judeo-Christian God principles, right? He's omniscient, omnipresent, all this, all that, white beard probably in the cloud. Which cloud?
Omni-theater.
So it, the second, we, and what comes to mind is that fantastic saying by the road manager of AC/DC, who after his work with the band, I think went and became a preacher or something. But he's got this fantastic line.
I'm sure his preachings were electrical.
And it says, God is the blanket we put over the mystery to give it shape.
That is,
that's
like
an
smooth
inspired, that's an inspired statement. It's fantastic. Because that's exactly it. We need some kind of a shape to the thing, in a sense. But we forget and mistaken the shape for the thing itself. The blanket for that which it covers.
Mm-hmm.
But without that, without some kind of a shape giving, it's very tricky to find a thing. How can you look for a thing that you don't know what it is or how it looks like, etc., etc.? And so
the thing that is not a thing leaves
Right.
us perplexed, and we don't really have anything to hold on to or grasp onto, and it doesn't give you any direction, because where
Right.
is it? It's everywhere. So what direction do I go in then? Human beings, we need, at least in the initial onset of any journey, this could be the meditative journey, or it could be the whatever task you're about to embark on, whether it's filling out a college application. You can't just say to some people, or most people, just do it. We need some step-by-step tangible markers.
yeah,
Or for anyone who's been on a long road trip, let's say to Florida, you can't just say go that way and then hit your destination. If anyone's ever done that, you need those mile markers to kind of reinvigorate your driving force
Right.
along the way. It can't just be like 1,000 miles of nothingness. People can endure
some general at
something,
least direction, or
something.
yeah,
and a feeling also of accomplishment, that I'm moving towards a goal. Otherwise, people very easily give up and feel like they're doing nothing.
well, that's the martial arts thing, right? What belt are you?
Right. Ultimately,
Because
what belt is there?
Right.
But if you don't have belts,
right,
how many
and that's the
people
thing,
can you
because it's
teach?
not what. So, I used to make this point. What belt are you? And somebody would say, I have a blue belt. I'm not asking what belt you have. You could buy a black belt today.
You certainly can.
Anybody. In fact, those of you listening, if you look under your seat, there's a black belt.
There's a black belt.
There's
right
a black
there.
belt there for you. Right. So, yeah, you could buy a black belt. That's why I will always say, what belt are you, in a sense, right? Meaning, what is the content of your knowledge? What do you know and what training? And I don't know if you remember, but I was a yellow high belt for far, far too long because I just simply refused to take a belt promotion test. And so, is every yellow belt the same? No, of course not. How much you practice, how much thing. But we need, like you said, we need those markers. We need that sense of accomplishment and that kind of some kind of a tangible something. And this is kind of what we are after today. So, what I want to talk about is Ogun. Ogun, gun means root, O means 5.
Yeah.
So the 5 roots. Aptly named, root is unseen. It's in the dirt, it's in the ground, it's unseen. And if we want to take the psychological approach to it, it's in the unconscious or the subconscious or the whichever basement.
Right, which Freud
language.
uses the iceberg for that example,
iceberg.
right? There's the tip of the iceberg that you see, and then the unseen is underneath the water.
Right. So that's the unseen bit. That's why they're called Ogun, 5 roots. And roots make for a sprout, a leaf, a flower, the whole plant, the whole sequoia tree grows from the seed, roots, and then up. Right? So that which is seen in a sense and expressed, we call that, we want it to be actually, it's a transformative thing, conscious, intentional, purposeful. We want that to become Oryok, which is 5 powers. The difference between the power and the naturally sprouting roots of the Ogun is that the power is something that we know how to wield, how to use. If we don't know how to wield, how to use, we are then governed by these things without our knowing we are governed by those things. And so first, and we've talked, I think, to some degree about this, is Shingun, which is the root of belief or faith, if you will. And anytime, and like I said, we've talked about this, so I'm not really going to dive into it, but this idea of belief as a secluded concept reserved only to the religious domain is absolutely not the right way to look at it. Belief and faith is you've drove here in your car because you have faith that wheels are not going to come off, and you drove through green lights because you have faith that the other drivers are going to stop as per promise, societal promise of don't go on red, etc., etc. You eat at a restaurant and you have faith that food isn't poisoned, and you sleep at night because you have faith that the roof is not going to collapse. Every forward-facing element of our lives, until we open another eye, every forward-facing element of our lives is unknown to us. All of the planning that we do on a daily basis, all of the preoccupations of the minds with what I'm going to do next, tomorrow, the week, the resume filling of where do you see yourself in 5 years, all those things are complete fantasy. But we operate based on it. We make the plans, and a big why, because we have faith that that day is going to come, that the 5 years are going to be here, or even tomorrow, or even the next moment. And so
I have some belief stories that I really love. They're anecdotal, but I love sharing them. They're actually from the scientific perspective. We talk about it as placebo, and then there's the nocebo. Placebo is the belief that something will go right, and then nocebo is the belief that something will go wrong. And both of them have been studied by science. There's one story that was told about so anytime you're going to do medical research, you have the control group and the experimental group. And it's the platinum standard is the double blind, meaning the people that receive the medicine don't know if they're receiving medicine or the placebo, and the people that are actually administering the medicine and taking all the data, they don't know it either, right? Because they don't want to have any influence. Because everything seeps through from the unconscious to the conscious, right?
Micro-expression.
If you know you're kind of giving the fake one to someone, that you might treat them a little different. So they want everything to be even and equal, right? And so it's very interesting, though. They do have to go over the side effects of the medications, because that's just general practice. You have to inform everyone. And what's interesting is that one of the people in the study ended up in the emergency room experiencing the side effects of the medication, which I think was something along the lines of heart palpitations, high blood pressure, the nervous system feeling like electrical and hot flashes and things of that nature. And so they were treated and all that in the hospital. But what was very interesting afterwards, and they were blaming the medication for that. They were saying they were experiencing the side effects. And then what was very interesting is that later on they came to find out is that that person was receiving the sugar pill. So this was like a pure case of they were told that these are the things that can happen, and there was no biological mechanism that caused that. It was pure belief.
Right.
I believed what they were telling me, and then they literally experienced it. It was almost like a hypochondriac moment at that state in their life. And so I have because that there's no biological element, right? Meaning there is, but there isn't one of those. It's just
right?
what
right.
The biology was involved.
It's been triggered. Triggered by belief, right?
Right.
That's the
ordering the cells
the
in the nervous system to activate in that manner.
Yeah. So it is a unseen. So we could say kind of, it's a root thing, because they don't know that this is, they don't know how to trigger. I mean, if say, okay, go ahead, have a heart palpitation right now. You know, can you do it? You can just conjure up a heart palpitation, but you can.
You literally can.
Right? You know how to, not that you should or want to, but if you know how to, you know how to. But we know how to because we do it when you get heart palpitations, barring any sort of external substance being injected or ingested or whatever. So in-house, director ordering a thing to take place, it happens all the time.
Yep.
We don't know how to do it, then it's not a power. And so that's the transformation of root to power. So we have Shingun, we have the root of faith and the root of belief. And these roots, this is true for all of them. Why they are significant in a sense is that if we didn't have it, we couldn't use it.
Right.
Just like with the concept of heart palpitation. If you couldn't trigger heart palpitations, then you couldn't trigger heart palpitations.
Mm-hmm.
And so we have the same thing. The use of these powers, we have it in us, being utilized actually, but they're being utilized unbeknownst to us, and so they're not within our control. We want to make them control. We want to give them direction. And that's where that idea of faith and belief, how do I use that? And so
I had a kid who he saw a dead bug on a rug, right? And he made that association.
That,
I tell you, right?
Mm-hmm.
And then, so that is like an experience that he saw. Right, and he made that association where there's a dead bug on the rug. But then the next time he encountered the same rug, the rug was clean, right? And so I noticed that he wasn't stepping on the rug; he's stepping over the rug.
Right.
And when I further, inquired, it was he still believed there was a bug on the rug. Where was it though? There was no. His eyes didn't see it. Right? So there was nothing there saying to him, look, it's there, be careful. Yet he still believed, and his body followed that belief, right? He took a precaution as if the rug was hot coal.
Yeah.
Right? So these things actively work in our lives and impact the things that we do, whether we are aware of it or not.
And, I have the idea of, when we hear that sometimes parents say, like, oh, I don't want my child to practice any religion or whatever. I want them to be pragmatic and, practical, and I don't believe in believing and all of this thing. And then later we are then asked to believe in ourselves in our day-to-day endeavors. And so we have the shingun, the root of belief. Unexercised as anything is, how can one then use that to one's advantage? Because, like I said, the problem is our belief. That means we only imagine belief in God or some deities or something to that nature. But belief is also, I do not see the thing yet manifest, but I pursue it. You graduate from school on account of belief.
1,000%. This is a critical point right now being made for all parents out there.
Yeah, I don't see it. Yeah. So it's not real. It's like God, in a sense, right? And not that God is not real. I mean, like you can't see it.
You can't see it at the
It's
moment.
a mystery, But then I pursue it, and then when I get there, then is the knowing. So
because even this is why the belief is so important to train these things in our children. But even like the degree, right? You didn't graduate yet. You go through at school because you believe that is something that will bring value to your life. But even along the way, not only do you not see it, but the signs, we'll say the signs are telling you, and the signs could be things that people say, maybe the experiences that you have with the academics, maybe a reflection of your grades. There could be signs that tell you, you can never get this, right? Maybe your friends might say, why would you waste your time with that? College is useless. You're better off doing X, Y, and Z. Maybe you didn't do well in one subject, which is one out of the God knows how many classes you have to take to graduate, right? But you just grasp onto that one thing, and it becomes the message that this isn't for me. So the only thing that pushes you through all of that is strong belief that at the end of all those efforts, you can accomplish that goal. If you don't have that, and that's why if we train our kids, whatever it is, early on, and Uncertainties has told us this so many times, when you constantly tell your kids no, and you cut off their ideas, you cut off their confidence, you cut off their beliefs, it has such a harmful impact on their future. Right. A kid can draw, my son can draw something, And I let wonder and creativity take over. You know, when you're too logical and rational with a child, you destroy belief.
Right. Invention, you destroy invention. The flight of imagination.
Because everything that is new or invented doesn't exist. It only exists in the realm of the mind, in the realm of belief.
Right. And that's the other element. It's this principle of existing or not existing, and also the principle of, and this is a very similar mechanism and situation as is the case with acceptance. Right? When we tell someone, oh, accept it, right? And what happens is the person then stops and just that step, oh, accept it, so then just lay down. No.
Yeah, that's
step one. Like when you learn your alphabet, it was A, and then like, okay, A, and no one walked away thinking there's only letter A in the entirety of the alphabet.
Right.
And belief is the same thing. The use of belief is, and within Zen in particular, and Buddhist belief system, the possibility or the pursuit or the goal, if you really want to go with that, the goal of belief is to give you that motivation, to make you search, to make you, there's work to be done on account of belief. It's not just belief and lay down. It's belief and pursue. Believe and pursue. And then eventually the belief becomes knowing. When you arrive there, you believe that there's a
beach at the end of the
right. I mean, do you believe in Poland? You
I
believe
do, because
in Poland.
I've never been
You've
there.
never been there.
Yeah, I've
right.
never been there.
So you believe in Poland
right now? Yes.
I mean, they have flat earthers, and people says, oh, the moon is fake.
Yes.
Because if you can't touch it with your finger, then same thing. You believe in Poland. You believe that there's a town in Poland called Kielce.
In Krakow,
right?
too.
In Krakow, yeah. And you got names even.
Yeah.
Look at that. You look at you with names, knowing names of a place you believe in, right? You've never been?
No.
You've never been to Krakow? I've been to Krakow, right? You didn't get this. As kids, they used to sell these little, not a bagel, but it's a tiny, like a ring thing. It's like a snack, and it's almost like a necklace thing. Dry as all else, but So yeah, I could tell you all the Krakow things. I could tell you all the Poland things, and you could be like, well, I'll believe you because you've seen it. And then one day it's like, hey, listen, do you want to come with? Or at least it's like, all right, well, listen, if you go there and you go this way and you go this way and you go this way, you could get there, right? And if you sit here, it's like, oh, I believe in Poland. I believe there's a Poland. I believe there's a Poland. You for 5,000 lifetimes, and you still believe there's a Poland. You've never tasted a single thing. You've never seen a single thing. Your foot never touched the Polish soil. Or you could go and say, I've been. I know what it is. It is. Right? And so that's the.
You're describing my the personal reasons for why I strongly practice Zen. Because of that. You can go from Ogun to Oryok. I believe and know, actually, that the practice of Zen can take you from belief to actual knowing.
To experience, to knowing the thing you're pursuing. Right.
Yeah, you can transform the root into a flower and into a fruit.
Right. And that's the thing. Without belief, there's no pursuit.
Right.
No one does anything.
No.
And it's so deeply rooted that it's almost absurd.
Well, I know from a psychological perspective also, like this governs. Someone might say right now, yeah, not in my life, but let me just give a really quick example of something completely outside of the realm of religion, which actually you weren't even talking about religion. You're just talking about going somewhere. But yes. So if someone has a fear, the fear isn't really rational. The fear isn't really real, because I have many people that have like a fear of crossing bridges. You can stand there, look at the bridge. The bridge is intact. You could see 1,000 cars go over the bridge. Yet that person who has the fear of the bridge cannot cross that bridge. Why? Because they're just not operating on what they see. They're not taking in any of that data, or they're dismissing all of the data, all of the facts, all that stuff, that the outside observer might say, it's very simple, look at it, and it's all logical, they can connect the dots, they can do it themselves in front of them, come back, show them a video, and that person still will not cross the bridge. Why? They truly 1000% believe in their mind that something will happen to them if they cross that bridge. And their whole life is governed and functions based off of that one belief.
Yeah. And
it's
so
as real as can be.
And that's exactly where the belief, the gun, the root, and the power comes into play. Because we have the root of belief, that is why they're imprisoned by their belief. If they knew how to control their belief and make it into a power,
yes,
right? Sinlyok as opposed to singun, then they could direct their belief, because then they could shift their belief, the sort of beam like a flashlight, right?
Yes.
What you shining your flashlight of belief onto? They're shining the flashlight of belief at an irrational fear of crossing the bridge. If they shined that same power, because this is a powerful power, because that power of their belief disregards scientific everything and anything.
Overrides it all.
Nothing, right? In extreme cases, their loved one could cross the bridge and says, if you don't come with me, I'm leaving you, and they're paralyzed by their belief. So if they shifted the flow, and this is when we say kido, to pray, right, is to direct our energy in a specific way. So if they shifted their kido, if they shifted their power of belief to, let's say, believing in, and this is critical, believe in the competence of the architects and the engineers and the workers and the confidence of concrete and metal and steel and you could pick any one of those things, or simply you could turn and direct the power of belief to believe in yourself.
Yes.
That you are then able and capable to overcome that. Now there's of course brain chemistry involved and all of those kind of things, but like you said earlier, right? There was no biological element, but there's a biological, but there isn't a biological, but there's a biological, back and forth. Yeah. And so absolutely.
And this is why Zen and religion is a form of training to be able to tap into that power of belief. Because if you arrive there with no training, you're literally a prisoner of these false, erroneous beliefs. Actually, you don't even know they're false. If you knew they were false, that would be wisdom, and then you'd be able to unbind yourself from them and redirect it towards what your better destination is, like you're saying there. It's very sad. I even tell my own mother and many of my patients with anxiety, it's almost like they're being pulled into this negative cycle of thinking or a dark cloud, and it's everything in reverse. It's like they're praying.
It is kido.
It is a kido in reverse or something. It's a kido for negativity, because there are some people. Another person that I know.
Prayer is real.
It really is. I know this guy that always says in Spanish, "Cuidado, be careful." All the time with his grandkids, with the kids. Be careful for this. Be careful for that. And the only person that gets hurt is him. It's the most odd thing in the world, I guess, to outsiders, but if you think about it, it makes perfect sense. He's literally praying for the problems to come to him. He's saying be careful to everyone, and the only person that falls, gets hurt, gets bruised is him. Because nonstop the mind is just noticing and thinking some danger is coming, or some danger will befall the other person.
It is the root that exists within us all. It, when undeveloped, it rears its head because it's a quality of who we are. And so if it's going to be there, period, and it behooves us to want to learn how to do something with it. It's a fantastic resource. that we could either utilize to our betterment and to have more happiness and joy in life, and less suffering, and you know, yeah, betterment of our general existence. Or we could let it do what it does, and what it does is it will then control us.
Mm-hmm. And drag you into places that you don't want to go.
Right. You know, and so it will become imprisoning, and it will become problematic. This isn't to say again that, you know, we're speaking in extremes. Right? You could use your power of the mind to do fantastic, unimaginable things, or you just screwed. That's not what we're saying.
Yeah.
Because it's a ever moving, it's a living thing, so it's evolving, it's moving, it's happening at so many facets and aspects of our lives. So, but it is certainly a player in our existence. Given the time, I think that what we could do is we could just maybe do an episode per root.
I was thinking that.
Yeah.
I was just thinking that.
You know,
belief is a very...
Yeah, so we have, so as the first one, and the very first one, and it's first because there's a reason why it's first. I remember Unsanim one time he goes, you know, there's no steps to enlightenment, despite of what the books will tell you.
Right.
3 minutes to enlightenment.
Yes.
You know, 6
steps.
minutes abs, 4 minutes beach body, and 3 minutes to enlightenment, and all that. So, you know, he opens up, he's like, you know, there's no steps to enlightenment, you know, because obviously. I said, yes, of course. He goes, but there are steps to enlightenment. I was like, wait a minute. You know? And there, Xin He Heng Zhong. Well, we've talked about this.
Yes.
Right? And it's belief as the first thing. So this stripped down idea that Zen is, you know, because the word itself just means meditation, right? But sometimes it's viewed as the kind of beliefless thing, and it's just, you know, self-empowerment. That's, you know, that kind of. There's no inspection of life as is when that's presented in that way, or really insufficient depth of understanding of existence when those statements are made.
Then isn't that the Zen saying associated with the no steps, or is what there are no steps in the sky yet birds can.
Right, that was one hill. Yeah,
yeah.
There's no roads on the ocean, and yet boats traverse it. That kind of, yes. And so the steps to enlightenment are Xin He Heng Zhong, and that's what it is. The first thing is that there's a belief, and then there's, you know, you do something, you train, you pursue, you know, and then you arrive. So it's not this isolated thing when belief is frequently thought of as like, oh, you just believe, and you know, blind belief,
right,
or empty belief, or whatever you want to call it, right? That's like, I'm just sit here and believe, and that's it.
No.
And the exercise of belief power, because sometimes what the idea of belief is met with, again, it's apples and oranges, but it's met with, it's like, I'm a person of action, you know, not believing. Believing is an action. I mean, what you're talking about, it's a power.
I would say there is no action without belief.
Right.
You're just
and itself, it
blind.
is an action.
Yeah, blind to that.
Yeah. And so really, I hope that our listeners understand that it's been hijacked, the term, and it seems to be isolated within a very specific and a very narrow domain, and it really is so much more so, and really we do so much disservice to ourselves and our children. I mean, the fairy tales are fairy tales, right? And the people who believe fairies are real, but I mean, like, fairy tales, I'm talking about fairy tales as in tales that inspire and, like you said, hinge and utilize the imaginative element of our brilliance and discovery and pursuit of discovery and invention and etc. etc. So it's the belief itself.
I would argue
as
that
if it were a
real.
muscle. Yeah,
I would argue that the fairy tales are real.
they absolutely are real. That's why, you know, the idea and actually calling into question whether a thing is real or not, like Superman is not real, or Santa Claus is not real, type of thing. And you know, we see this. I'm not going to tell my children there's a Santa Claus, and then, you know, just, you know, they need to know that mom and dad go to work and you know, work hard, and then they make money, and with the money they buy the thing that they could learn responsibilities and money management and, you know, very kind of that kind of thing.
Sure. But adults going to work, when you say that to a 5-year-old, it's the same thing as telling someone that the moon is made out of cheese. I'm just so go ahead, keep going. But the person that say no, there's no Santa Claus, they think they're smart.
Right.
No, there's no Santa Claus, son or daughter. Dad goes to work. You're not putting yourself in that kid's shoes and taking into account the level of understanding of that kid. You just basically told them, want. The same thing as Charlie Brown's teacher.
Yeah.
Really? You did not bring that person closer to the truth.
Right. And so what are the other elements to, like, you going to work and making money and buying the thing and bringing it? Doesn't that, for on one interpretation of it, doesn't that make you a Santa Claus? Because then also says, well, listen, son, you were listening, so you're not getting the PS45 or whatever video
you're
games.
on the naughty list.
Yeah, you are not a naughty list, right? So it's what I'm saying is that the exercise of the muscle of belief, I don't care in what. Squishy, squish, squish, if you don't want to do it. Doesn't matter what. It's the exercise of belief. We do drills in life all the time. In you know, in school you do drills. At work there's fire drills. There's this kind of meaning we're practicing a thing, right, before it happens. Hopefully you never have to evacuate in a real fire situation, but you practice the fire drill, right? There's a sort of muscle memory. There's a habit forming, etc., etc. Why? So that when the moment of chaos happens, right, when the hardship happens, when the difficulty happens, you have exercised this skill set sufficiently enough to get you to safety.
Yes.
When you have, as we are, exposed to the world around you, and you have never exercised your power of belief, like the person unable to cross the bridge, and you've never exercised the power of belief, and your schoolmates, housemates, spouse, whatever, sometimes, you know, peer pressure comes in, bullying comes in, tearing down of people comes in, you know, the social media and all of these things. And if you don't know where your muscle of belief is and how to use it, if you've never did a belief drill, as you did a fire drill, etc., etc., how then are you expected to believe in yourself more than you believe in some keyboard warrior across the world telling you that your hair looks terrible and you should hang yourself? And then you have people who hang themselves. So
the scales, the power of belief doesn't outweigh this attack that's being imposed on you.
No power.
No power.
But belief is there. Still, and this is the function of the root. The root, the shingun, the root of belief is there, but it's unexercised. So what happens with the unexercised thing? It's willy-nilly. And so somebody says, your hair looks terrible, you look ugly, you're disgusting, you should kill yourself. And the person then believes in those words of that person. Or the belief itself believes in those words in a sense, as if it had its own mind. And the person, not having exercised their power of belief, doesn't know how to take that power away from this absurdity and direct it into something else. Right? And so, no training, no fire drill, no belief drill, no practice.
Yes.
But we can't uproot the roots. These roots are not, they cannot be uprooted out of our existence. It is built into, woven into fabric of who we are. And so, really, tend to that, care to that, exercise it, make it yours, so that you can use it, or the option is you use it, or you are being used by it.
What happiness can overwhelm a person when they discover and learn that you don't have to just submit or be consumed by these attacks from the world, where you, from within you, you have this, muscle, or we could say a jewel or a lamp, whatever it is, whatever metaphor you want to use. You rub your inner lamp, or you flex your inner muscle, or you let the inner jewel shine, and you can counteract those forces with strong power and belief that, no, I can follow my way, and I will not allow your words or your ideas to distract me and deter me from my path. If you can just sit with that, my goodness, there is great, awesome power in that. And I just want to say one more thing, and then you can go, because very recently, one of my friends was crippled from this belief that in a few days a certain outcome was not going to manifest in her life. Crippled by it. And I always referred back to, every single time, Kido and belief. And let's say the thing that she was expecting to happen was going to happen 5 days later. I started speaking to her on day one. Every day I saw her crippled and riddled with disbelief, consumed by negativity and anger and anguish and pain and real suffering that didn't allow her to move from there. And I always stuck to the same thing. And the night before the event was supposed to occur, like magic, Nyauhunga Piryok, what she wished for manifested. And then now she was struck with awe that, my goodness, there is some very powerful truth to the power of belief in Kido. It is real.
The sutras, time and time again, the Buddha says a thing like, as if a strong man were to simply bend his arm or straighten out his arm. It's as easy as that, in a sense, and it kind of echoes the Zen masters. It's like easy, like touching your nose or like blinking. But it is, eye contact, right? Where do you direct your eyes? They're my eyes, and I choose to direct them here and there, you would think, right? But if something is much more, if there's a hierarchy of interest, and the more shiny a thing comes up, as if the eyes had their own power, and like, oh, and they just go there. It is the same principle. The lamp or the direction of our belief can be guided and governed and directed if we exercise it so.
Sure.
So.
That's like almost what you're saying is like the algorithm of life. When people are only seeing like negative things and disasters in their life, I feel as though their eyes are just being guided to that. Like the world is a vast place. If you're only noticing those things, you're completely blind to everything else. They literally will just
bias and sure.
But behind those eyes, the move, like you're saying, behind the movement of the eye, why do the eyes always go to that one specific thing?
Yeah.
Right. To the person who's been robbed, when they approach a person, when a person approaches them, their eyes always go to certain, maybe their hands. Is their hands balled up in a fist? To a person that's anxious, always goes to other people's eyes. Why are they looking at me? And so you're right. Like eyes are governed by what they believe.
Right. So, tend to the roots, for they cannot be uprooted. Turn that into a power.
And
that's the practice.
Is magical, and that is mind-blowing, and that should leave you in, that alone should leave everyone in just awe.
4 more to go,
Mm-hmm.
folks. Do we have 4? I think we have 4.
Yeah.
Before I go away.
Oh, right. Yeah, we'll see if we can get through.
Well, until then, take care of yourselves and each other. I'm Young Ansinim.
I'm Dr. Ruben Lambert. If you like what you hear, subscribe and like, and then pass it on to someone else who can also benefit from our program.